Well, greetings everybody. Welcome to our King's channel where we take counsel in our King. And the way we do that is by looking into the every living word and walking according to it. This is part 4 of the 666 Jabber-Walkin and Salvation Is It Too Late for Them series. Now, if you haven't watched parts 1, 2, and 3 yet, I do highly recommend you go back and watch it. Otherwise, you may not understand what's coming up in this here part 4. But I will tell you, at the end of part 4 there, I did ask if somebody could recognize who I am in this picture. And by the way, this is on one of those inky-dinky mini sticky notepad dealies, wherein I was drawn pretty well here. Look at this. This here is the handsome fellow. And take a look at those trunks, boy, I tell you. And the beard? Oh, the beard was done well. And so as you can see, I do have a love of my life. Gives me a small reason, because this one's, you know, small, about 6, 7 years old, and one of the most faithful people I know of. And one of these days, before too awful long, when the gathering comes, we're going to have us a cookie and milk conference between the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of us, depending on who likes cookies and milk. Anyway, hugs and blessings to you, to all of you. So with that, let's get on to part 4. Here we go. But a man can't have more than one wife. He's got 2. It says one loved and the other unloved, and they have borne him children, both the loved and unloved, if the firstborn son is of her who is unloved. Then it shall be on the day he bequeaths his possessions to his sons that he must not bestow firstborn status on the son of the loved wife in preference of the son of the unloved, the true firstborn. So you can keep on reading in those things, but the point is, I wanted to show is that if you've got someone that comes in out of the world that has done things that the Christians want to say is the mark of the beast or whatever, you cannot be saved from it, and this and that and the other thing. The mark of the beast is going to be one of those things that there is full disclosure about. There are certain things that are deceptive that our King is going to show the power over at a later date here. And again, if our King cleansed everything, why after his death and resurrection did he specify of every unclean and hateful bird in Revelation 18:2? Consider that. Now let's get into the gathering, where I do believe that the shaving, and then 7 days later again, the shaving, because of the deceptions the world's in, not understanding or realizing because they never had the opportunity to follow the truth. Right now, only 144,000 have ever seen the truth, and those that do listen at this time are so blessed, the children of the earth who actually hear and start coming out of the deceptions. When we're gathered, which we're going to get into here a little bit, and I've been telling you, I still don't know everything about this gathering, but I've got a much clearer picture from what our King has been showing us from the first time that he showed me, you know, that a hair in a soup or something, you know, people that don't cook are the ones that get upset over these the most, and it blossomed into this video, believe it or don't. Well, at the same token, the time's coming when there is a gathering, and all those that didn't have this opportunity for salvation before, even though they did some stupid stuff, and they're probably suffering and got boils on them, you know, open sores, whatever it is, they're really hurting. Well, they may further in hurting and such, and there may be places for them to be, I don't know, outside the camp, but I do know that they may have right to the tree of life if they turn from their past sins, though there's nothing they can really do after this. You can't just, you know, drink 2 bottles of water and it's gone. And maybe even when everything's shaved and then shaved again 7 days later, may still be suffering from the dumb decision made earlier I mean, if you take a knife, and you say, hey, my finger's stupid, and whack, you chop off your finger, you're like, ugh. And then you come to the law and understand you should keep the laws and commandments. Well, that don't grow your finger back, does it? And so it may not get rid of everything, but it will restore your soul. In fact, the laws convert the soul. So please pray on these things. Anyway, Exodus 19:4 says, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. And then the Father says, now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, just like Father Abraham did, we showed that at the beginning of this video, Father Abraham obeyed his voice, his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, his laws, his every living word Abraham obeyed. And the promises to you as well. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant. Yes, the way you keep his covenant is by practicing the every living word, by practicing the laws and the commandments. They're to be written in you. They can only be written in you by practice. I mean, most people out there in the churches think they can just go right to Mount Everest without ever climbing up a little hill first, even. People that climb Mount Everest, they practice climbing cliffs and things for years before they went to try to climb Mount Everest. It wasn't just an all of a sudden, oh, I'll go climb Mount Everest. And then they go climb. No, it's the same thing with salvation. You have to practice it. It's something that our Father's long suffering in. If it was instant, why would he be long suffering? It says, now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And that's what the remnant is. A remnant is those that are going to be of that number promised in those days after Father Yahweh brought them out of the land of Egypt on the wings of eagles. Does that sound familiar here? Is things opening up a little better for you? Because there weren't actual eagles that came down and swooped and picked the children up and flew them off into the wilderness. That's not what took place. Though the Father says that, and it says they brought him unto himself and were to keep his laws and commandments and get rid of the leprosies. Now let's check out what eagles means. It's word 5404 in the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. And here they've only got eagle, vulture, griffin, vulture, which is from the Hebrew word 5404. Now the word you want to look at is this wings. It's Hebrew word 3671, and it shows wing, extremity, the edge, winged border, corner, shirt, wing, extremity, skirt, corner of garment. So in other words, they were brought out to an extremity. They were brought to a place that people just didn't want to take a stroll walking out to. Who knows? Maybe this border or corner or extremity could even be like Texas. Who knows? We'll find out here when we are gathered. But anyway, it talked about these eagle wings that our Father brought Moshe and the children out of Egypt on. Here in Revelation 12 verse 13 it says, and when the dragon saw that she was cast unto the earth, she persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. So in other words, I believe there's actually going to be 2 places that there's going to be a gathering for. And I could be incorrect. But what causes me to see this here, other than our King, hopefully it's his words, his thoughts being, becoming my thoughts, becoming his thoughts, as he leads me and guides me, as he is you as well, hopefully, if you know him. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place. where she is nourished for a time, which is a year, and times, which is 2 years. So you got 3 years there, and half a time, half a year, 3.5 years from the face of the serpent, away from Satan and her ways. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. This is peoples being cast out of the mouth, being told, oh, well, you know, those that don't have their certificates or whatever, they should be spit on and stoned and cut off from all the reindeer games. They shouldn't be allowed to go to ball games. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't want to go to a ball game, you know. I left all that behind when I left the world. But anyway, Satan's going to cast out of her mouth this water as a flood after the woman, that she might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of her mouth. Now, it's in the sequence of things that are going to come about that I believe that's going to be a great earthquake, and some of the armies that are coming against this woman, at least one of the groups of this woman, is going to be swallowed up by the earth at the time of the great earthquake, one of them that's going to be taking place. And it says here, it shows it's not Christians or those of the religions of the world that Satan's coming after at all. It says, Revelation 12:17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of that woman's seed. And what did they do? It says, which keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the testimony of Yahshua. So these ones could be the children of the earth, or ones even that the children of the earth had taught. But as you can see, the woman here that had the wings, this woman here that had the wings of a great eagle to be taken to a place of safety. But it specifies here 2 wings, where in Exodus it only said on eagle's wing. Here it specifies on 2 wings of a great eagle. And what is the greatest eagle that people know of today? It's America, maybe, I don't know, okay? But there are wilderness places here in America where 1 or 2 groups, and I'm leaning toward 2 groups, could be nourished for a time, and half a time. But you can see where that the group is divided, because here it shows the dragon was wroth with the woman. The dragon's all upset with 144,000. She's hated me since the day I was born. I was swapped in the hospital at birth, you know, and almost murdered. Because the child that I was swapped with within 2 weeks had died of pneumonia. And that child was supposed to have been me, okay? But anyway, the dragon's wroth with the woman, and she goes to make war with the remnant of that woman's seed. So it looks like it could be 2 groups, and that seed, the other group, which keep the commandments of Yahweh and the testimony of Yahshua, because they learned it from the woman. And there's a law that says you're supposed to teach your children and such when you rise up, when you walk down the road, when you're eating at the table and everything. You're supposed to be teaching these laws and commandments. So I'm leaning toward 2 groups that's going to take place here. And who knows, maybe one of the groups have converted from following deceptions and such, but yet willing to keep the laws and commandments and have learned the testimony, though maybe they still have open sores and things of that sort because of things that they had done in their past that there might be no way to cure, as it does talk about some of these diseases that are coming that there is no cure for. But there may be forgiveness of these holy temples, you know. They're not going to be in the kingdom with us. Though we have the kingdom in us, you know, these are not going to be allowed in the kingdom. Flesh is corrupt, and it says no flesh and blood or bone is going to inherit the kingdom, okay? We operate inside these clay temples, our spirit, our soul, lives within the confines of our holy temples, that we must bring under submission to the laws and commandments of the every living word of our Heavenly Father through His righteous Son. And that's what this other part of this woman is doing as well. The remnant of the seed of the 144,000. And though the flood's going to come after them, the earth is going to open up and they'll be swallowed up. Now back in Luke 17, where it first started talking about, go show yourselves to the priest, these lepers, and verse 14, let's go down to where our king was furthering speaking, and read it yourself for the sake of time. But here notice in Luke 17:26 it says, and as it was in the days of Noah, so it will also be in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, married wives, so on, so forth, until the flood came and destroyed them all. Now please pay attention close. It says, likewise as it was also in the days of Lot. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even so it will be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. This is don't go, off your housetop or going after your goods and this and that, picking up your clothes out in the field or whatever. And it says, remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks his life will lose it. Whoever loves his life right now, you're nowhere near the kingdom. You're going to lose it. And whoever loses his life or whoever hates his life will keep it for the kingdom. If you think life sucketh right now, you are correct. It does, and it's supposed to. But anyway, this is what it's going to be like on the days of Lot, in the days of Noah. Over here in 2 Kepha, it showed 2 Kepha 3:10, but the day of the Father will come as a thief in the night. You got all these elements going to melt with fervent heat, fires breaking out, all sorts of stuff taking place. Matthew 24, Matthew 24, verse 24 starting says, for false messiahs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, the 144,000. Well, I'm telling you, you can have power over deception yourself. If there's somebody out there on YouTube or anywhere else that proclaims themselves to be a Messiah, the Jesus, or a prophet or whatever, and they're selling things on the Sabbath, they've got a channel on YouTube that gives advertisements on the Sabbath so that they are generating money from the Sabbath. If they're selling you books, how-to books on being righteous, they're the same ones in churches saying it's all right. And I'll tell you what, they're false. They're not going to deceive me. If they're buying and selling on the Sabbath, they have nothing to do with our Father. So if they're proclaiming they're a prophet, speaking these words, or if they proclaim they know our King. No offense, Michael Rood, or any of the rest of you out there. But if you're buying and selling on the Sabbath and you haven't got a thing to give to me, as far as salvation goes. And many of them's going to rise up in these last days with wonders to deceive you. And it says, see, I've told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he's in the desert, do not go out, or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning goes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. Now get this, it says, for wherever the carcass is. Now this is actually mistranslated, because carcass is meaning where the corpse is. And who knows, maybe Corpus Christi might be a place where people's gather. I don't know. For wherever the carcass is, there what? The eagles will be gathered together. All right, but look at this. And then it says, next verse, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Now remember, it says that it's going to be the day, as 2 Kepha 3:10 speaks of, that day. Here in Luke 17:30 it says, even so will it be in the day when the Son is revealed. Luke 17:29 says, but on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, then it did this raining fire and brimstone and everything from heaven on them all. So here you got that day they're speaking of, to be gathered to wherever the body is. There the eagles will be gathered together. And then immediately after that, like when Lot left out of Sodom and Gomorrah there, then immediately after came the fire and the brimstone and everything. So here it shows there's a gathering that's going to take place. And then it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven will be shaken, and the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his holy Malachim with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his 144,000 from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So the 144,000 aren't just in the earth, they're also from one end of heaven to the other. Probably why you see a lot of UFOs out lately, on YouTube or personally. But a 747 can't get you to heaven. And no, it's not talking about they're before the Father's throne. It's not speaking that. The moon, though it's in the heavens, is not right there before the throne of our Heavenly Father, where our King is reigning right now. So keep these things in mind. And then our King goes on further and speaks about different things. And he says in Matthew 24:34, assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. And then he says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words, the every living word, will by no means pass away. And then it says, but of that day, what day? When the heavens and the earth pass away. But of that day no one knows the hour, not even the Malachim of heaven, but my Father only knows the day that the heavens and the earth will pass away. Our King knows when he's going to send his holy Malachim to gather his elect, but our King doesn't know when the Father is going to destroy the heavens and the earth. So anyway, you see here, there's going to be the eagles, just like there was in Exodus, where the children were taken out of Egypt, and they beared them on eagle's wings and brought them unto our Father. The same thing's taking place for wherever the carcass is, wherever the body of our Messiah is, there the eagles will be gathered together. He's going to gather together his elect from the four winds and such. And here in Revelation chapter 6, verse 1 starts talking about the seals that are being opened. You get down toward the bottom of the chapter here, Revelation 6:12, and it says, I looked, and when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. So you see, these things are going to take place. And it says in 17, it says, for the great day of his wrath has come, and who's able to stand? Now the next chapter shows you who is, okay? These are where it shows in Revelation 7:1, I saw four holy Malachim standing at the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of war of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. And it was done until there was 144,000 of the tribes of Israel who were sealed in their foreheads, in their hands, now with the mark of the beast. And it says not to harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till the servants were sealed. Here in Matthew shows they're going to be gathered. Well, that was the end of part 4. I hope y'all love me still. Do you love me? I love you, and I'm praying for you. May this Sabbath have been a great delight for you. May our King smile upon you and open his name up fully for you. You do know it's not how you pronounce the name, it's how you keep it. And in the family of Father Yahweh, we will keep the name of Yahshua, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yahushua, anything but the Jesus for the most part, in our hearts and in our minds. May his name, by our keeping of the commandments and the laws, be on our tongue at all times, like Isaiah said in chapter 8. Read it for yourself, but here in Isaiah 8:16 says, bind up the testimony and what? Seal the law among my disciples. How do you think the 144,000 are going to be sealed? By the law. And so if y'all are out there just searching for a bunch of teachers to teach you all sorts of things, take this to heart. Isaiah 8:20 says, to the law and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. There's no truth in them at all. And these lying preachers and such that are out there telling you cute little stories without ever letting you know how to acquire salvation, but they sure show you the collection plate. Listen what's going to take place for them fellas and them gals. Isaiah 8:21 says, they will pass through it hard pressed and hungry, and it shall take place when they are hungry that they will be enraged and curse their king and their God and look upward. Then they will look to the earth and see trouble and darkness, gloom of anguish, and they will be driven into darkness. So as you see, any preachers that will come where the gathering is, if they come teaching some of their manure and they end up getting tar and feathered or whatever, they're going to end up hard-pressed and hungry. They're going to be enraged with their little letter king and their big letter God and look upward. But as they're being put on the outside, they're going to look out there. They're going to look at the earth and see trouble. They're going to see the darkness, that they're being pushed out of the light. Because we're not going to put up with their lies where we're gathered. It's not going to take place. That's why they'll bring their kings to us in chains and their nobles in fetters of iron. It's not going to be like you see today. And there's not going to be any voting either. Believe you me, this is not a democracy. Majority is not going to rule. It didn't go over well with those in the wilderness. Just like it's going to be at the gathering, Isaiah 4:5, a cloud and smoke by day and the shining of a flaming fire by night. And while we're under the wing of our king, we're not going to be sinning. It won't be allowed. You want to sin, we'll push you out to the darkness where you belong. But if you want to live in peace, by all means, come. Keep the commandments and the laws. They're not a burden. If you think they are, you are the burden. So please repent. I'll help you, And it's going to be like in the days of the wilderness, my friends. Except that in those days, they had the law. They lived by the letter of. In these days, the true believers will live by the love of the law. But if there are those that want to keep it by the letter, think they can sin and get away with it, they'll have a new thing coming. They'll be pushed right to the outside, where the dogs will be, the sorcerers, the whoremongers, the sexually immoral, all liars. They're going to be on the outside. And I don't laugh with glee. I laugh because Revelation 22 is also speaking of when our King gathers his people. So with that, I love y'all. Think about it. Pray about it. Bye.